Hey everybody, this is On here, and as you can see, I made it outside again. It's so great to have this weather. I wasn't sure how it was going to work this month because everywhere around here is so busy. Everybody wants to get outside right now. Everybody wants to get some fresh air, get around some trees, be in nature. And of course the weather is just doing amazing here. If you see me reach down or something once in a while, there are some mosquitoes around here, so I might have to squat some of those out of the way. But I wanted to really get this month's video out to you. It's been a hectic time. I've been busy working on the book. I'm very excited to say I am finished with the writing portion of it, so I'm looking forward to hopefully getting it out in a reasonable amount of time, getting that 2021 version for the Code Journey out. In the meantime, let's delve into some concepts here, and I've got for our topic this month, discernment. And discernment is so powerful. It's a big piece that's coming up right now, and it's a big piece that is connected into our August 2020 codes. And that is all about this aspect of decisions and commandments. And I do, yes, have my little cheat notes here in case I need them here. And discernment also plays into balance in our life. So when we start looking at these things, I kind of see balance. Balance is the more subtle, passive aspect of this same thing. It's kind of the subtle passive side to getting answers, to getting insight. Discernment is a much more active part to that. And so I think that that's a really powerful piece to be able to experience and to consider. And I think right now, discernment is becoming more and more important because people are getting so much information thrown at them. There's so much confusing information, incorrect information, distorted information, so the facts mixed in with the not facts, and and then we have all of the, of course, political games being played in the midst of all of that. And so I think that this is a great topic because people's minds right now, from my experience and the feedback I'm getting from people, is very overwhelmed, overloaded, and trying to sort through the vast amount of information that's being thrown at them for every little thing out there is beyond belief. And seeing so much that is emotionally charged right now is, I think, intensifying everything in a very strong and very powerful way. So when we look at this piece of discernment, I want to first look at what the code aspect of what discernment is. And discernment, yes, it's about decisions. Yes, it is about being able to look at the facts, right? And that's kind of a traditional piece of discernment, is trying to decide what the truth is, trying to understand something, trying to tell what is best for us versus what might be best for somebody else, this type of thing. So when we look at the code aspect of discernment, what we find is that it's about taking command, which is a really interesting piece because there's a whole bunch of layers when we get into taking command of our life. And what we really want to consider is, one, are we taking command of our life, or are we trying to take command of other people's life as well? And that, I think, is a really important differentiation to make. So first of all, you want to get into the aspect to make sure that it's your life you're taking command of, and that you're not trying to take command of everybody else's life. Because once you do that, you step into a misuse of power. And discernment is definitely on a power code. It's a very powerful code. But one of the things that we know from codes is that when we deal with power, power used wisely can create some of the most magnificent, transformative, life-changing transformations in our life. Power misused is something that will wreak havoc, it will cause destruction, it will cause crashes, and it can be extraordinarily devastating, not only to the people that are misusing it, but to the people that are following them, to the people that are supporting them and around them and things like that as well. So when we step into power, it's not just about how many connections do I have out there? It's not just about how many friends I have, how many people would step up to support me in something. It is really about having this confidence. It's really about knowing you and your soul self and who you are and God's flow of energy. So this is where discernment becomes so powerful, because if we stand by some of these things, we can almost always make the right decision based on the information we have. And a lot of times we're going to make the best decision we can in our circumstances with what we have to work with. But one of the big key pieces when you are working with this command energy code is to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with wise people. And I don't mean just people who necessarily agree with you, but wise people. And this is really an important piece, because if you are surrounding yourself with those people who are not making wise choices, they're only trying to nourish certain agendas. They're only trying to be in a narrow focus or push what they want to be in things. These people are going to bring you crashing down. It's just like inviting evil into your life. As a metaphor, it's like inviting evil into your life. And we have to stop and think about that, because it doesn't mean that we have to totally ignore those people, have nothing to do with them. But we do need to make sure they're maybe not fully into our inner circle, so to say. And I say that with the greatest of love, because if they're in a position where they are, I would relate this to, say, somebody who is in a position of power, somebody who is in a position of influence, and they have aides and they have assistants and they have people that are doing a lot of things for them. So they have decision-making authority, okay? And so when that happens, the decisions they make could bring somebody in power down. Well, the same is true in our own personal lives. So if we have people around us that are making a lot of poor decisions, they're bringing a lot of risk into our life. They're bringing a lot of danger into our life. They're bringing a lot of drama into our life that we have to stop and deal with, a lot of things that then we have to correct along the way, all kinds of things like that. So I want to encourage you to really think about that. And again, power is not all about the connections. It is really power and being in command. Like, I can have a lot of power and never communicate with somebody, but I could still be a huge influence in the world. And this comes down to our soul self, how we're using our soul energy. It comes down to the confidence I have in the choices that I make and the decisions that I'm making in my life. So this is a huge consideration in things. And one of the pieces that happens in discernment, one of the things that puts us in this position of command or this position of leadership aspect, is that it blends the logical and the creative minds. So they are working in union. Now, if the two of those are working in union, they're almost a great checkpoint to each other, because it's like the passion and the rational side. It's like the artist and the logical bookkeeper working together. And, when the two of those are working together harmoniously, they can create some really good results, and they can cover a lot of bases, look at things from a lot of different perspectives, and make really wise decisions. But if we're basing things only on books or only on creative urges, then a lot of times we can kind of get ourselves lost down some straggling paths that maybe aren't so favorable for us, right? If we only listen to the free spirit, we could get ourselves maybe in a little bit of trouble trying to survive. If we only listen to the practical and logical side, then we'd never be having fun. We'd never have that sense of play in our life. We'd never have that sense of originality, and we'd just be following a box, which we know oftentimes does not serve us and gets us in a lot of trouble, right? That's how people end up in schemes and and various things that just take them down some really rough, negative paths. So I want you to keep that in mind. Always look at things from both sides. Make sure that those two pieces are working together. And then we want to make sure that we are operating from a pure space. Okay? If we are not in a pure space when we're making decisions, and purity is this place of, it's not just about innocence, it is about coming to things without a specific perspective, objective in mind, but considering what something has to offer us. So when we're really being open, and I'm sorry, I've kind of got the sun coming in, I'm trying to not throw the camera off too bad, but when we come at something from a pure space, we're looking at it really in some ways a very objective space, a very clear space, where we're looking and seeing what it really has to offer and what it is really presenting, not just what it shows on the surface, but what it's really presenting beneath the surface on things. So that purity will be very, very important, because if you don't have purity in what you're doing, if you don't have purity when you are in command, that command power will destroy you. And this is where we see people, they take those falls and they take those tumbles, and we're seeing that a lot in our world affairs. Actually, right now we're seeing that where people are having to step down and things like that because they weren't operating from purity. They were in power, but they weren't operating in purity. And that's a really important piece to keep in mind. So it's that pure heart, right? It kind of comes back to some of the Ten Commandments stuff in a way. It kind of comes back to some of those real good fundamentals. You got to be pure of heart to really harness power. And if you are pure of heart, the amount of power that you can harness and the things that you can do with your position of command in the world and being able to direct energy in the world and move energy in the world is far stronger than anything you can do coming from a space of corruption. Now, when we look at this, and we want to take a look when we're discerning for something and discerning, is this right, is this not right, or trying to figure out directions we're going in our life, for example, that's part of discernment, right? Should I go down this path? What should I be doing? What's the next cycle I want to start? Because we're going in and out of cycles all the time, for example. So as we start to look at that, we want to really take a look in our life right now. If we're going to be in command of our life, we need to understand how much of the things that we are choosing to do and being and working with in life are about carrying out our own plans, and how much is it about carrying out other people's plans. And this becomes very, very important, because if we're carrying out our own plans, here again, we're building our confidence, we're building our command, we're building our ability to move the energy in the world, we're building the ability to be creative from a space of wisdom. If we are carrying out other people's plans, we are literally turning our power over to them. So when we're following everybody else's thoughts and ways of doing things, and we're feeding and nourishing them, and there's nothing really wrong with supporting somebody in what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I don't really particularly have too much of my own stuff that I want to do. I just want to be a part of something good in the world. I just want to be a part of, taking care of trails like this wonderful group where I'm at today. They do, and they handle a lot of the trails for the areas here in Maine. I just saw today as I was walking out here, they put a garden up and things like that. And that's what some people want. They want to be a part of things, but we can be a part of things without just turning our power over completely. So I think that, here again, what happens for a lot of people is they start off on something, they think, oh, this looks good. And then as they turn their power over, they start to have more and more conflicts coming up. Personally, they have more and more challenges coming up with continuing to see it through, because they no longer feel like they're in command of their life. And I know a lot of people that have been in the adventure industry and things like that, and they actually love having the seasonal work, because they feel like they have a lot more command over their life. In some ways, the expectations aren't as high. In some ways, they're higher. But in a lot of ways, you know, they know at the end of a certain period of time, they can walk away, they can go do something different, they can, you know, move on with other things, or that they're letting that support them to get to something else. So definitely always take a look at that and consider, how much am I working on my own plans? How much am I furthering somebody else's plans and motives? And, you know, again, there's a discernment piece, right? You got to weigh it out, you got to balance it out, and maybe even sit and think with it a little bit and go, yeah, is this nourishing my soul? Is this giving me the soul time I need? Is this allowing me to get out on trails? Is this allowing me to do the things that I really love in life? And I know I'm constantly rebalancing this, because I have periods where I don't get to a lot of stuff that I want to get to. For example, like when I'm writing. But then I have other periods where I still kind of find myself challenged to get to certain things that I love. And it's a constant reprioritizing that goes on. And the more and more I step into my soul self, I have to say, the more and more I am getting confident and taking command of my life to say, nope, not gonna respond to people during this time. The phone's going off, Wi-Fi's going down, you know, things like this, and honoring those pieces. So there is this actual piece of honoring yourself that comes into play as well. So moving on with this, we want to really be careful that we're, especially if we're facilitating or helping somebody else in doing their things, that we have some sort of freedom within helping them. We have some sort of ability to make some decisions, or to still have the life that we want to have. And I say that because I think everybody pretty much has some sort of dream that they want, even if that dream is to just be free and to not have a schedule, or to just go backpack the Appalachians for, you know, a few months, or whatever that dream is. And we have to be careful that we're not always pushing our dreams aside. You know, and that's one of the valuable pieces that come, like discernment just offers so many valuable pieces to us. We have to make sure that we're not just pushing our dreams aside, because unfulfilled dreams become a void. And when we create a void in our life, and we look at that from the code perspective, what happens is materialism comes in. Materialistic things, needs come in, fights, arguments, battles with people, wars come up and things. And all of a sudden, our time is being devoted and used for supporting materialism, for surviving, for dealing with things that we don't want to deal with. So it's really, really important you get in there and you fulfill your dreams and you focus on them. And that is part of carrying out your own plans. Your dreams are your own plans, even if it's not a specific job or a specific line of work or things like that. We don't want to leave things unfulfilled. If we decide not to go through with something, that's fine. You know, we can say, hey, I've had a change of mind. I want to focus on something else now instead of what I thought I wanted to do, because I've learned these other things about myself, so I'm going to redirect. But we have to, again, we have to be careful. We don't want to just not fulfill them and leave that void space, because again, that just brings in that really heavy, unpleasant energy that then just ends up pretty much pulling us completely out of our soul self. So what this moves us into is, if we are following these steps and if we're willing to work with discernment and we're willing to take command of our life, it brings us into creative leadership in our life. And creative leadership, now some people, they think of leadership like it's a specific position and they've got authority over people, and yes, sometimes that's the case, but leadership is about observing. You don't even have to be part of a group. A lot of times it may involve that, but you don't even have to be a part of the group. It's about observing others. Where are they at? What are they experiencing? What are they feeling? What's going on with them? This is incredible. Get to know those people that are around you, because, you know, it's really strange. Like when we had the virus come up and all these different issues came up, politically, racially, you know, all of these things. came up, and it started dividing people all over the place. And one of the things I heard people come back and say was, wow, I really never knew that about that person. I just thought they thought the way I did. I thought that's why we got along because I thought we had all these common interests. And then it was like, nope, now all these people are bashing me, or all these people are doing this, or, you know, now I'm finding out that we are nothing alike. And this happens because we've gotten very comfortable in our society, and with all the electronics, with all the gadgets, with all the business in life, with all the emphasis on surviving and doing material things, the challenge is that we get pulled out of the soul self and we stop having communications. We stop interacting soul to soul, and we stop getting to know who the people are around us. And this is important because if you don't know the people around you, you don't know if those are the people going to throw you under the bus or support you or give you a helping hand when you need it. You don't know, and you need to know, because not just to understand where you need to keep some distance and where you need to get closer to people, but also to understand how to bring out the assets and the best in people. Because if you're not paying attention, you can't bring out what is best in those people. And creative leadership has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with identifying those assets and to, you know, really take a look. It's about flexibility as well. You know, you might have a goal in mind, but how rigid are you in getting to that goal? How structured are you having to be? What happens if a little wrench gets thrown in the system and you have to go a different direction? You know, what happens if there's a huge thing covering a trail and you got to go around it? Are you flexible enough to go around it, or are you going to just stand there and cuss and whatever because you got an obstacle in your way that you can't, you're unwilling, you can, but you're unwilling to go around it. You're unwilling to work around it. So flexibility becomes a big part of this creative leadership aspect. And part of flexibility that goes hand in hand with this is about working together with people, working in union, working soul to soul with them. You know, I shared a story a couple of weeks ago, just under 2 weeks ago, right around 2 weeks ago, that was about welcome, that's the airport in Maine. It was about somebody that I helped when I stopped at one of my farmers markets one Saturday, and I'm sorry I keep adjusting because the way the light is coming in, maybe I just need to turn, I don't know. But anyway, so I keep finding that here again, even if you're not working in part of a team, you are working together with other people. And in that story that I shared, it was about observing her. I'd never met her before. I had no connection with this person, but observing her, being flexible with the plans I had in my day, and realizing what she needed. And, you know, long story short, I spent 6 hours that day making sure she got home safely because she was lost. And, you know, as we all know, when we're lost and we're in an unfamiliar place and we don't know how to get around, and you're not good with directions and things like that, then it's very, very stressful. It kind of puts you into a state of shock. So realizing these things, this working together soul to soul with her, is what I did. That was creative leadership. So it was an aspect where I needed to take command of the situation. I had to discern what was the most important thing to get through, which was getting her home, regardless of really what that meant for me, because I had to stop and say, can I do this? Is this reasonable to do? It's definitely the right thing to do. And I realized that indeed I did have the flexibility to do it. I did have the opportunity to do it. It was the right thing to do. I did have to spend a couple of days recovering with my body as a result of doing it, which was a very small price to pay to give her this gift. So creative flexibility, again, we don't want to get too locked into things, but it is about this paying attention. It is about a soul-to-soul communication. And if we observe people, we understand what their assets are. We understand what they're good at. We may be seeing things that they haven't seen before. Jessie used to do this a lot when she worked summer camps with the YMCA. And she would go in and she would work with kids, and she had a program she was involved in that was kind of a coaching-based self-development program. And this person just viewed herself as a victim. But Jessie said, no, you're like an amazing leader. Like, people look up to you and this and that. And she brought out some of her assets. Well, it turned out that that person went on and applied for some summer grant things and came back and was the president of her club, and it had some thing that she did at the White House and everything with the summer program, and it like totally transformed her life. And she came back and was a counselor the next year because Jessie saw something in her that she didn't even see in herself. So we got to realize when we are stepping into discernment, we have powerful opportunities at hand with this. Now, another piece of discernment, and this is kind of the last big chunk, is about living as your soul self. So not willing to be saved in some way, I think is important. It's about accepting others for who they are, even if you don't agree with them. And it's about creating a lot of self-sufficiency. It's about a commitment to living as your soul self, a commitment over your life, a commitment to being in command of your own life. And again, command is, when it's power that's misused, that's where we see that kind of dictator style. That's where we see a lot of the global political stuff that's going on in the world. But when it is about taking command of our own life, this is the space that things get created from. This is the space that things get done from. And when we're dealing with other people... Hey everybody, so sorry about that. I had a little technical glitch. I had to go take a walk and now I'm trying to record from my phone. So hopefully I can get the last bit of this in on my phone. And the last bit of it was about living in your soul self. So when you are bringing everything around, and soul self is about being self-sufficient, it's about accepting others for who they are, even when they've got the different views and the different opinions, and not wanting to be saved. It doesn't mean you have to be stubborn and obstinate about doing everything yourself, but, you're not looking for people to save you or to do things for you, basically. So when we start looking at this piece of discernment, it's very important that we use these different components as a guideline. Is this going to allow me to be in command of myself and my life? Is this giving me the freedom to have those choices? Is this allowing me to follow through on my own plans? Is this allowing me to fulfill the dreams that I have that I want to fulfill in life? And is all of those things in a soul alignment? Are all of those things in a God alignment, so to say? Are they working with divine principles? Is this in alignment with the basic fundamentals of living purely, wholly, soulfully in the world? Is it balancing? Do I have the logical and the creative mind working together in things? And, really, is this nourishing me to be able to become more and more self-supportive in my life? And I had planned to do a meditation. I don't want to take a chance with the technical glitches that I'm having right now today. It's just been a funky day that way. But I want to wrap this up, and I hope that you will use discernment in making decisions, because decisions really are, just like discernment, all about taking command of your life. They're all about this active principle of balance and bringing balance into our life. And, again, what is the price? What is the payoff? What is the value of doing something? It's not just the material reward by any means. And we need to get down and look past what something is being presented as. And I think that that is a really important piece, because if we are going to use wise discernment in our life, we have to be able to look past and beyond just the surface. You know, the surface might say, this doesn't look good to me, but underneath it, it might be really good for you. And vice versa. On the surface, it might seem really good, but then when you dig deeper, it's full of all kinds of lies and deception and whatever else, and corruption involved. So really tune in. How is this resonating? What are the benefits to my soul self? What's the benefits to my human self? How much is this allowing me to be in my soul self? How much is it pulling me out of my soul self? All great questions there. And I know that you're going to do great with this piece. It's so incredible when you step into that command, because it really is this space of confidence. It doesn't mean you know everything that's going to happen and when it's going to happen and all of those pieces, but you have a confidence when you are in command of your life that you can handle whatever comes up. You can deal with whatever comes up. And in reality, we can. Jessie showed this over and over and over again in her life. And I'm doing the same thing. Life is always going to be throwing stuff at us. And it's just about whether we handle it. So I'm going to sign off. Take care, everybody. Until next month. I'll be coming at you also for those of you that are enjoying the political world affairs sort of aspects of stuff and you want a code perspective on that and you want to do some digging with me on that. I have another YouTube channel called Connecting Codes, ConnectingCodes, so Connecting Codes, and that's where I delve into the world events and the political affairs and all of those crazy things that are happening in our world from a code perspective. So another option for you out there. Take care. Coming out this fall, hopefully it's going to be within the next couple of months. The 2021 book of the Code Journey is going to be ready to go. I'll see y'all later.